Anyway, I finished Celeste. Kind of. I kind of finished Celeste. I ended up turning on assist mode because those last few levels that I wasn't able to do, specifically 8C and Farewell after a certain point, where it's just where I was so annoyed with the game that it felt like a huge f you, you know? There were levels in Celeste, or specifically one level, 7C, where it felt extremely hard, but at least it felt doable somewhat. It was extremely hard and long. I didn't just say it like that. But it felt doable. And I did it. After literally over 1,000 deaths, I finally did it. But that should have been the end. Honestly, it should have ended before that. The C sides I already don't like because they're just too much. B sides to me is where it should have ended because they were already extremely challenging. C sides are just unnecessary. And then came the biggest f*** of them all, 8C, where literally that won. And let me remind you, this was originally the very, very, very last level of the entire game. That last level teaches you a new mechanic. This is not a joke. A new mechanic that is kind of hard to pull off, that you have to practice, and that speedrunners use mostly, and it does feel like a speedrun mechanic, like kind of, it does almost feel like abusing a bug, even though it isn't technically a bug, you know? It teaches you that in the very last out of 24 levels, chapters, and then expects you to master it already, immediately. It doesn't give you any time to practice, because obviously it is the last level of the game. That felt like a huge f*** you, and I just said no. F*** this, no. I don't care. And then came Farewell. It is the very last level of the game, the very last chapter. It came out later on as a free update, and is meant to be the longest and hardest level of them all. And oh boy, is that true! That thing is insanely long. And at a certain point in the middle of it, I'm not joking you, in the middle of the very last chapter, it also teaches you a new mechanic. Also one of those speedrun thingies, where it's like kind of hard to pull off, even harder to pull off than the previous one. And I was also like, okay, f this, no. I did it, I tried a few levels after that, a few stages after that, and I actually managed to even beat some extremely hard ones, but at some point I just gave up. It was just too much. It wasn't fun anymore. Like, it wasn't hard to the point of, you know, being... It was hard and frustrating. Like, before, the game was hard and frustrating, but at the same time motivating, because it felt possible. It felt like failing was a genuine skill issue, where it's like your fault for failing, and not the game's fault. Because the controls are so perfect, so snappy, so everything, the game itself is just challenging. And that was motivating. That, though, felt like bullshit. It just felt like too much. There is a limit. And that was just too much. It was just a huge f*** you. So I did what any sensible person would do, and I turned on the so-called assist mode, which apparently does not prevent you from getting achievements, and is basically a god mode, where you can like dash infinitely, not take any damage, and just like blast through the levels. And that's what I did for those last two levels. Everything else I beat genuinely. Let me show you. Let me show you 8C. I will not even show you Farewell because it's so f***ing long, it would probably take like half an hour or so to even finish it normally. Okay? At least, like, if you do it somewhat cleanly, okay? But let me show you 8C. You enter, in order to enter, you have to already have collect all of these hearts just to be able to enter, so, you know, you already know it's gonna be a bitch. And here is when the bird tells you a new mechanic, okay? Again, very last level of the game, clean playthrough takes only 2 minutes. For the last 2 minutes of the game. And then came this. And then came this. Look at this. Look at this absolute bullshit. What the f is this? What? And it just doesn't end. It just keeps going. Let me remind you, you fail once, you're dead. You're f***ing dead, kiddo. What is this? There is such a thing as too much. What the f is this? I'm not playing! I'm ranting! I'm ranting about this bullshit level. It just keeps going. You think that's it? No! And then you have to nail that new jump that you just learned twice in a row at the very end of this extremely long level. F off. Too much. And let me grab something, okay? I'll be right back. I uninstalled it already. Wait, do I have a photo? I used the assist mode to get through the very last chapter, through Farewell. Through the rest of Farewell, which was like the last third or so. But all the deaths up until that point counted. I didn't die after it anymore because, well, obviously. But all the deaths up until that point still count. F this game.